Hi, in this video I'm going to read you the last financial horror story included in Swiss Frankenstein Financial Horror Stories. This is a story in which all of the financial fairy tales that I wrote, the financial tragedy and poetry that I wrote, and the financial horror that I wrote all come together in one story, which is a bit unique because it covers one story with fairy tales, poetry, and horror stories in one story. It's even also a thriller, actually. It's entitled The Addams Family Office, inspired obviously by the Addams Family and family offices as wealth managers of family capital. The Addams Family Office. Welcome to the annual meeting of the Addams Family Office. It's great to see you, or at least the hands representing you. Haha. During this meeting, we will also have the shareholders meeting of Specula SRL. Chuckles emerged from the medieval room in the Transylvanian bronze castle that was empty, apart from the usual old furniture and 7 hands without bodies attached to them, floating in the air. They looked as if they were part of a person sitting in 2 rows of 3 persons each, without the persons being visible apart from their hands. One of them was sitting in the front, facing, or handing, depending how you look at it, the other hands. The purpose of this meeting is to establish how our aim to increase misery under management has been realized over the past year, said the hand floating in the air in front of the group. When it is your turn, can you please raise your hand, identify yourself, and report on what you have done to increase financial misery? Sorry to ask to identify yourself, we can't see each other after all. And let's keep it that way, at least for others. Please also identify what financial innovations you have used to achieve this. As discussed during our meeting of last year, we were all planning to consider how we can use bankruptcy boosters, mis-selling multipliers, angst accelerators, default doublers, and loss leverage tools. My name is Lucifer, just for the records. I will be chairing this meeting, but I will participate as well, of course. Hands 1. Please tell me about your identity and your activities. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. I am King Cash. As you know, cash is king, and my aim has been to cause as much misery in the space of alternative payments to cash. The one thing I'm most proud of having achieved last year was to push the Swiss economy into incredible turmoil. I unleashed ransomware on the Swiss National Bank, preventing it from converting the Swiss franc into other currencies. I branded it Swiss Frankenstein to scare the Swiss even more, including a logo to increase fear. This was a great angst accelerator. On the second day, I also disabled payments into Swiss francs within the country. The hand in the air turned towards the other hands. Do you have any idea what happens if you can't pay for anything due to technology malfunctioning? In this case, people in Switzerland started stealing food, anything. Even within a day, it was mayhem. I'm quite proud that I managed to make the country come to a grinding halt, disabling payments altogether. It was a default doubler and bankruptcy booster in one. The Swiss franc became a zombie currency, alive but dead, as some media said. People and companies around the world still had their credit balances, but they could not use them anymore. We earned 1 million Bitcoin within 2 days, paid by the National Bank to make this problem go away. Not a bad return on investment, right? This was probably my best piece of misery under management. The hands around him started applauding. There is more though. I've also caused a lot of misery with a cryptocurrency initiative. I was behind the launch of a highly advanced cryptocurrency. He laughed. This currency, the Alive coin, was different from others. It was not only artificially intelligent, it was also sentient and had legal personality. That makes it human? Human money? Said Chair Lucifer. Practically yes, said Hands 1. But again, money that has come alive? Would you trust it? Being King Cash, I wouldn't. I actually believe people would be scared, and that's exactly why I created it. Best just stick to good old cash if you want to avoid misery, by the way. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to create misery. Do you want to know what happened? The Alive coin started procreating, not unlike what central banks do when they print money, but then different, of course. He laughed in a sinister way. Nothing sexual about it, just creation of newly incorporated subsidiary coins, all starting to live their own lives and procreating themselves. Investing in profitable stuff to grow hard, smart enough to go underground and finance anything illegal and miserable with value. Terror, drugs, and adult entertainment, body parts, really anything. The alive coin became a family of coins, an army of coins. The sentience of the coins was not the same as having a conscience. I left that out, of course. My idea of an angst accelerator. The sentience developed the coins into barbarian coins, sadist coins, and other type of coins. Some of these coins were aimed at leveraging loss, mis-selling, or causing bankruptcies. It has been difficult to measure the misery these coins have caused, but I tell you, it has been massive. Well done, Hans 1, said Chair Lucifer. Let's move on. Hans 2, the floor is yours. Hans 2 moved left and right, as if to greet the fellow Addams family members. So King Liar is my name, fraud and deceit is my game, maximum loss leverage for others is my aim, all for my personal gain. Let me tell you what I have done. I set up the Specula company here at the Castle of Bran. A company to make life miserable for anyone. It truly was a lot of fun. I have always been a liar, and in this castle I also wanted to be a vampire. So with our family member Gullible, I would conspire. Together we built an empire of blood transfusion and an empire of retirement illusion. The hands started applauding, but stopped when Hans 2 continued. We maximized human blood extrusion and for thousands a pension exclusion. But my absolute main misery caused is the mother of all Ponzi schemes. The US dollar has been subject of countless dreams. We have caused a US debt default, and now we hear only screams. The currency has lost reserve status and all esteems. A booster 75 times the US biggest bankruptcy, the world's biggest outcry. The biggest Ponzi scheme in history, we've caused immense hysteria. I have even built Egypt's biggest pyramid scheme. It was a fund pharaoh's big profit scheme. I did all for the love of money and to capture all those miserable flies in the honey. The hands all turned to Hans 2, raised and applauded louder than before. That is truly remarkable, King Liar. Kudos to you and Gullible, said Chair Lucifer. Time for Hans 3, the floor is yours. Hans 3 rose a bit and started talking. I am Gullible. In my investments, I have always been a victim of abuse, fraud, mis-selling, anything. From big counterparties, from small counterparties, from anyone. My contribution to misery therefore comes from the heart. Hear, hear, said the other hands in chorus. As King Liar already mentioned, I worked with him on the Specula misery. We sucked the blood and sold it as red gold. We took countless pensions, you have heard it all. Hear, hear, said the other hands again in chorus. I have contributed to a very black event. I will leave that to you and my sister Black Monday to tell you all about. Instead, I will tell you about my favorite misery. I have developed a passion for the arts of extortion, blackmail, duress, and threats. I have incorporated the first art into private equity investor who has done beautifully miserable things with it. It really has been quite straightforward. Whenever he bought a portfolio company, he had, how shall I put this, intense meetings of minds, probably describes it well, with the management. The other hands chuckled. In that meeting, he used all instruments at his disposal or created for the occasion to make the management maximize growth. By all means. The man really was creative. He had read books about coercion, influence, power, arguments, psychology, incentives, even torture. And yes, he applied that knowledge. The management of the portfolio company always felt the meeting as a new person ready to disrupt any business strategy in their companies, any culture, work process. They became rather miserable people that would make their staff, suppliers and competitors miserable in the process. All to grow the company to the max and to squeeze the max out of it, prior to the sale by the private equity company after a few years. Nice, gullible, nice, said Chair Lucifer. I find it a bit hard to judge how miserable that has really been for everyone, but take your word for it. Let's move to hands 4, and that is me. Does anyone need a comfort break before? The hands nodded. Some went outside and lit up a cigarette on the corridor on the inside of the castle. Just some hands with cigarettes in them, overlooking the inner courtyard of the castle dating back to 1377. After about 15 minutes, the hands reconvened and hands 4 continued. Let me start by saying that I'm really happy to see how you are all creating so much misery. My name is Lucifer, so I'm a bit of a devil, right? A naughty boy. Apart from liking bad things, I like supernatural stuff. So I've worked with some of you to create some good misery. I'll tell you about it. He stretched his fingers a bit. First of all, I worked with King Cash and Black Monday on the Swiss Frankenstein misery. I don't want to take much credit for that, but what I did contribute was the supernatural stuff. I mainly arranged that the ransomware was impossible to detect and solve. Apart from that, I scared the board of the Swiss National Bank by writing the next day's Financial Times cover page, on which it was reported that the Swiss franc could not be used anymore for domestic payments either. I've always enjoyed a good angst accelerator. You should have seen the faces when I included the photo of the Swiss National Bank on the cover with the text before mentioning that they were not able to solve it. Haha. The hands all laughed. The other bit of fun I had was the sadist laugh that finished off that board meeting. I also played it unexpectedly at the end of the global press conference in which it was announced that the problem would be solved imminently. These were just special effects, but I launched a more significant piece of misery. I've launched a new version of the Northern Lights that appeared not by the North Pole, but over financial centers. Although people were amazed by the spectacle, they soon realized that these lights actually diverted payments done in those financial centers. It was a major default doubler and bankruptcy booster. That part was done in cooperation with King Cash. Thank you very much. It was quite a lot of fun to see how much turmoil is caused by payments being unpredictable or not made at all. I must say it was also disappointing to see how quickly people get used to the new reality though. True, said King Cash. But it's satisfactory to see how soon cash is being used again in those cases. Cash really is king. Oh, I nearly forgot to mention that I cooperated with King Liar to replicate his talent to raise capital for a major Ponzi scheme he set up. I created 100 clone sultans that replicate his behavior and talent. They have successfully tapped many billions that have been invested in the Buco Nero black hole account. Just like another account I mentioned, account 666 of Banca Monte Cristo, bad things happened with the funds in those accounts. He laughed with the same sound of the laugh he was talking about, the one made famous by Michael Jackson's Thriller song. The hands all laughed again. And speaking of Ponzi schemes, I helped King Liar with the Egyptian Ponzi scheme by arranging the crocodile that ate an investor that dared selling his investment, a disaster in any Ponzi scheme, and the more difficult curse of the fun pharaoh. I have to say I enjoyed the crocodile kill more though. It is just more spectacular than the apparent food poisoning of the other investor that left and was cursed as a result. Another brother will tell us more. One thing that did not work out well, that was frustrating, was about the loss busters. I've been quite successful in making many poor people suffer in silence over the years, losing money on all kinds of things, gambling, being greedy, wrong investments, too much borrowing, you name it. This guy Ahmed, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, had an angel on his shoulder and managed to prevent and reduce a lot of that misery. I have to find a way to deal with that. Anyway, let's now move on to hands 5, please. Applause followed from the hands as hands 5 started to speak. So I am Baron Bullmarkt. My experience and talent has been to set up big, audacious projects or investments that subsequently fail and make people lose a lot of money. Baron Bullshit, said Hans 6 and laughed. Sort of, said Baron Bullmark and laughed. He continued, one example I have managed in the new business model of Banca Monte Cristo, the largest bank to invest in religion. I've made sure that the new investment strategy of that bank resulted in devastating losses. I cooperated with Lucifer on the setup of account 666, in which all losses had to be booked. Lucifer just mentioned it. Together we ensured that religion has now become almost literally bankrupt. Lucifer stood up and applauded. The other hands followed. That is great, Baron. The bankruptcy of religion. Ha ha ha, I love that. Thank you, Lucifer. Another project I got off the ground was the investment by a major retirement investor into catastrophe bonds. I ensured that the lawyers advising on the terms and conditions of the bonds made these conditions very easy to be fulfilled. It caused giant losses. Imagine your grandpa having to continue working for 10 more years until he is 75 years old, just because some lawyers were drafting a definition in a smart way. I want those lawyers in my legal department, said Lucifer and laughed. Who's next? Hand 6, your turn. Thanks, Lucifer, said Hand 6 with a thick Texan accent. I'm Flotello, the investment banker from Texas. He paused and cleared his throat. Hang on, everything I say needs to rhyme, he started. My name is Flotello. I arranged funding in the dark. That's essentially my trademark. I arranged funding for anything bad. I want to make the world go mad. I arranged syndicated financing through dark pool. I found the darkness there quite cool. Bad things happen after this trading night. That's why I don't like business in the daylight. You must have liked my Lucifer's lights though, said Lucifer and laughed. Sorry for interrupting, but please go on. I also arranged the first capital raising on the dark web. It made the biggest ever Bitcoin grab. The dark web spider is now the biggest dark web bank, and it is me, the spider, has to thank. Finally, I arranged the initial coin offering of the Alive coin, cryptocurrency. With its AI, sentience and legal personality, it has unleashed the biggest financial piracy. Hooray, Flotello, you are a star, said Baron Bullmarkt and applauded. We are so complimentary. I make good things fail and you make bad things succeed. Hooray! Hooray, said all the hands in chorus. Hooray! Lucifer clapped his hands. We are coming to an end. Before we will celebrate with special drinks, we have one more member of the Addams family to report to us. Hand 7, why don't you tell us about it? And please keep in mind that you are the only one between us and the drinks. Haha. Thank you, Lucifer. I am Black Monday. Whenever I ask Mirror, Mirror on Wall Street, who is the most miserable crisis of them all, it was me the mirror mentioned. That is until I went bankrupt in 2008, said Flotello. Sorry, please go on. You were right, said Black Monday. The mirror on Wall Street actually inspired me to contribute to even bigger crises. And not just to cherish the one that made me famous. This is why I'm proud of what I have achieved. We are all ears, said the hands in chorus. I was the architect of Swiss Francenstein ransomware attack. King Cash and Lucifer both collaborated on the execution of it, but I take pride in having developed the idea and design of it. It was a lot of fun to create a major global crisis around the zombie currency. The hands chuckled as Black Monday continued. You know my fondness and expertise in crisis. I enjoyed the crisis I worked on with Baron Bullmarkt, where so many retirees invested in catastrophe bonds that did not pay out when expected. It was not nearly as big as my piece, The Resistance, though. That is, my dear brothers and sisters, the biggest ever crisis the world has seen and will see. She turned her hand toward Flotello. I'm sorry, Flotello, but your bankruptcy was about 75 times smaller than the one I have caused. This is the default of the United States Treasury to pay nearly 50 trillion US dollars in debt. It has unleashed the greatest financial and economic misery the world has ever seen. That is truly amazing, Black Monday. Pièce de résistance indeed, said Chair Lucifer. No doubt your mirror on Wall Street will mention the USD Day for a very long time. I think that's the best possible way of ending this annual gathering of the Addams family and special purpose company Special Specula SRL. I hereby end the formal part of the meeting to invite Gullible to tell you about the special drinks he has arranged for this celebration of misery. Thank you, Lucifer. It is a great pleasure to announce a venture to you that has been particularly appropriate for this occasion. Specula has supported a strong emerging producer of blood transfusion equipment called Sanguine. That was not intended to help blood transfusion. In fact, we wanted them to suck blood for us. Funny thing is that they have become known for producing blood transfusion equipment, but what they really are is an investment blood bank. They have created a scarcity of blood by tapping incredible amounts and taking it off the market, about 10 megaton. This has increased the price of blood. It has become known as red gold, wanted by all kinds of hospitals, medical care organizations, etc., but sadly unaffordable now. Gullible laughed. How sad, said Lucifer, and laughed with him. Sanguine is a private company that we are of which we are the main investor. But the best is yet to come. We have set up a blood winery, Chateau du Sang. Sang means blood in French, as you may know. Not to be confused with sangria from Spain, of course, an ordinary drink. Just like Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Grigio and other grapes from which common wine is made, we have meanwhile actually produced different types of blood wine. They are named after the types of blood, OA, B and AB. We've already had barrels of the blood delivered to the castle in vans and stocked them up in the wine cellar downstairs. Believe it or not, we have about 5 bottles of the rarest blood on earth, type RH0. There are less than 50 people on earth that have this blood type, and Sanguine has tapped 5 bottles from them. That is very impressive, Gullible, said King Liar. I knew you were up to something with Sanguine when we worked on this project, but not that it would be exclusive blood wine. Thank you, King Liar. Can you imagine we've actually hired a full-time sommelier, the equivalent of a sommelier for regular wine, a blood wine expert that will recommend the best blood wine for any occasion. He will ensure the right blood wine is combined with the right dish. And he is here with us. Gullible clapped his hands and the sommelier came in with glasses and 2 bottles. This is the Chateau du Sang RH0 Grand Cruel, the most exclusive wine available, said the sommelier. He poured the glasses one by one. I recommend you roll it around your mouth, wash it over your palate, and suck it in with a bit of air. You will taste the last bits of life of the blood owner, feel the misery. The hands took the glasses and toasted. I say cheers to that, cheers to misery, said Lucifer.